Okay. Alright, well let me ask you some of them.
Okay, if you want to know my parents' birth dates, I got
You
it.
can fill it out. Okay.
Out of the book over there.
Alright, so let's just say, though, the names of your siblings.
The names of them?
Yeah, just their first names.
Claudia, Ellen, Mildred Maud, Lyda Marie, Mary Frank, Raymond Carson, my brother, Sarah Louise, and myself.
Excellent. Alright. Alright. Do you have a nickname?
A nickname?
Yes.
I think my nickname has been Pee-wee all my life.
And how did you get that nickname?
My older sister Marie was first called Pee-wee, and when I came along, they started calling me Pee-wee. And I've had it for 82 years.
Do you like your nickname?
Well, Howard thinks I'm too old to be called Pee-wee, but some people don't know my real name.
I don't think you're too old to be called Pee-wee, Grandma. Alright. Where was your family living at the time of your birth, when you were small?
In Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
And what was your house like?
Oh, it was a two-story house, a wooden house, that later in a hurricane, the roof blew off, and when we got home from the shelter, the roof was about 2 blocks away, in perfect shape, just sitting there. Otherwise, that was the most damage we had from the hurricane.
Alright. Let's see. What kinds of work did your parents do?
My father was a finished carpenter until he got diabetes too bad to work, and he did refinishing for a friend in a furniture store in downtown Fort Lauderdale. He died at the age of 52 from sugar diabetes.
And what about your mama?
My mother didn't work until after my father died, and then she worked for the government at the old fire station in Southside Fort Lauderdale, making white dress shirts for politicians, and it was called the WPA.
I didn't know that, Grandma. That's great. And how old were you when your daddy died?
I was in the 5th grade.
What do you think was the most wonderful thing about your mama?
She was a good seamstress. She made all of our clothes, even made some for some of my friends so we would have matching clothes. She was a very, very good mother.
And what is the most wonderful thing about your daddy? They want to know too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Howard?
Yeah.
Pick up the phone. It came to you, huh? Tried to think of somebody's name last night and couldn't think of it, and Barbara just thought of it.
Oh, that's great. Okay, and the most wonderful thing about your daddy?
My daddy was a very sick man, dying when I was in the 5th grade. He had sugar diabetes and was on insulin 4 times a day. And back then in the 40s, they didn't have antibiotics. He'd got a sore on the bottom of his foot, and they wanted to amputate his foot, and he wouldn't let them. So not long after that, he died.
What Do you have any good memories with your dad?
My dad used to take us to Davie every Sunday, all of us kids, to see our Grandma Carson. And we would go down, which is now 84, sometimes Flamingo, but that was a dirt road. But a lot of time us girls would sing in the back seat, and our father would always say, "You sound like the Salvation Army."
That's a good memory. All right. You want to do some more?
Okay.
Okay. What are your early memories of your grandparents?
Well, mostly they had a nice big home in Davie. My parents' home had blown down in the 26 hurricane, so they moved to Fort Lauderdale, but my parents stayed in Davie till they died. They got to their about 64th wedding anniversary before one of them died. My grandmother always made biscuits and chicken and dumplings when we came on Sundays.
Oh. Do you have a memory of just you and her? Or something?
Well, she did a lot of embroidery work. And I would go out with my cousin Mary Ruth and spend the weekends. And I remember it being so cold in her house. They had a fireplace, but we'd lay our clothes right in front of it and stand there to get dressed. Even though it was a nice big home, it just wasn't heated. Had a nice big, several bedrooms, bathroom, big kitchen. It was a beautiful place.
And how did they have a house like that? What did he do for a living?
My grandfather was one of the first to help plant Flamingo Groves, which is west of Davie. We had our 31st family reunion at Flamingo Groves. This coming year, 2011, will be our 80th class reunion.
Wow. All right. Do you have any memories about your great-grandparents?
No, I never did know them.
They passed away before you were born?
Yeah, and they passed away in Tennessee and Kentucky. No, I didn't know the greats.
All right. Do you know anything about our ancestors' ethnic or national origins?
Yes, they were mostly from, in our family tree things, they were from England, Scotland, and came to the States in the late 1800s. My grandparents came to Davie in 1925, and some of the relatives came to Davie in 1909. Yeah.
All right. All right, so these are questions about your childhood.
My what?
Your childhood, when you were a little girl.
Oh, I used to tap dance a lot on the sidewalk in downtown Fort Lauderdale in front of the drugstore, and everyone always said I was going to wear out my shoes from tap dancing so much. I did a lot of acrobats. One old man at a hotel in Lauderdale that was down the street from us, he came every winter, and he always paid me a quarter for doing acrobats to show him. And he was a nice old man. I used to play in the New River down on the steps and catch crabs. And I shouldn't have been doing that because I never did learn how to swim. But I did.
Let's see. And who among your childhood friends do you remember the most? or that you're still friends with?
Ooh, not my childhood.
Just Aunt Mary Ruth and other cousins?
Yeah, my cousin Mary Ruth, who died a few years ago, we were cousins, but very close. Her father and my mother were brother and sister. And she lived with my grandma Carson, because her mother had died when she was a little girl. So she was born in Tennessee, but came to Davie to live with my grandparents. We were always close, even all through high school, until she died.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you remember a favorite toy?
Favorite toy? Well, in the 5th grade, one of my sister's boyfriends brought me a ball and bat and a ball glove, and he played baseball with me in the front yard. That's in the house where my daddy died.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember his funeral?
My dad's?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I remember my dad's funeral because we were quite embarrassed. A woman came in a red hat, and at that time, boy, you didn't wear red to a funeral. That was definitely a no-no, and I remember that woman forever.
Why do you think she wore a red hat?
I don't know, but she just didn't wear red hats to
It was
funerals.
scandalous. All right. What were some of your favorite store-bought treats as a child, and if you remember how much they cost?
Treats?
Yeah, at a store. Maybe candy or a little...
Oh, there was an ice cream parlor on the main street that we used to go get ice cream cones. That was about my biggest treat. At that time, in Fort Lauderdale, my mother worked in the dime store, and my father would take us in the car and park in town to wait till she got off. And it was an old car, and in the floor, in the back seat, it had a hole, and us girls would wet in a can and throw it down the hole because there was no outdoor public bathrooms at that time.
Mm. Did he have the hole on purpose for that?
I don't know, it's just the floor, under the floor mat had worn, the metal
Oh, okay.
had worn out. And that's what I remember, and my father always took me to a parade. And he always took me to cut down a Christmas tree
Where would you do that?
in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, they had a Christmas tree farm?
It was just a pine tree farm. It wasn't called a Christmas tree farm. But we would go and cut down the tree, which maybe was 4 or 5 feet tall, no taller, and take it home and decorate it.
Very nice. Very nice. And how much did the ice cream cost?
Oh, I imagine about 5 or 10 cents.
All right, one more question. And then we'll take a break.
Oh.
Describe one of your favorite childhood dress-up outfits. On what occasions would you wear it?
One of my favorite outfits, in fact most of my favorite store-bought outfits, came from my Aunt Mame, who her child had died when she was a little girl, and I was named after her. So she always sent me, for birthdays and Easter and stuff, beautiful store-bought dresses.
Mm.
Otherwise, all of my clothes were homemade.
All right, you want to do some more?
Okay,
Well,
it's time for Leah anyway, isn't it?
well, she texted me she's leaving. She's about to leave now. So she'll probably be here in like 15 minutes.
Don't
All right.
worry.
Okay. So you want some more questions?
Yeah, go ahead. We're going to put you on newlyweds.
Well, responsibilities did your parents require of you as a child? So what did you have to do when you were a kid? What were your chores?
Help keep the house clean.
So like the laundry or?
Yeah. Help with everything, because I was the last kid at home. All the rest were off and married.
What's the age difference between you and your sister closest to you?
4 years.
4 years. Oh, so she was gone by the time she was 18?
Yeah.
Right, Leah just texted me she's in traffic.
She's where?
In traffic.
Oh, we know about that.
Did you get an allowance?
No. No.
Do you think most people did?
Some people did, but there was not very much money. When my father died, we had bought a new kerosene stove, which was the latest, and my mother and I, we couldn't pay for it, so the store came and got it.
Mm.
And later, I can see to this day the water meter man turning off our water because we couldn't pay the bill. I can see him now. His name was Shepherd.
Oh, wow, Grandma.
So we had no water till we could pay it back.
That's when your mom finally found a job?
My mother didn't know how to drive when my father died.
Oh, wow.
So we had an old car, a nice, well-kept car, and we had a long driveway, and my mother would go pull forward and back up, and pull forward and back up, until she learned to handle the car.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But there wasn't that much traffic in Fort Lauderdale at that time, in the 40s. So you didn't worry about traffic or driver's license.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. And that year after my father died, my brother went off to the Army, was in the U.S. Air Force, airplane mechanic. He ended up in New Guinea in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And he came home with yellow fever, very, very sick. And in later years, at 62, when he had to have heart surgery, he died because of the previous yellow fever.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
All those years later.
That Judy's daddy. Can't help it.
You're perfect how you are, Grandma. All right, did you have any pets?
Yes, we had a big German Shepherd dog.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember about him?
Oh, I remember he was just the nicest thing. He was just like one of the kids. Just like one of us.
Did he sleep in the bed with you?
No. He did come in the house, but he didn't sleep in the bed.
And who did you sleep in the bed with?
Mostly Aunt Easy, until she left home. Yeah.
Did you guys have bunk beds or little cots or?
No, in the living room we had a big, huge table that lifted out, and it was a bed.
Oh.
I've never seen one since.
Like it went into the wall, or you just turned it?
No, it just sat just like a big table sitting out here,
Mm-hmm.
and then at night you lifted it up this way, and there was the mattress and all in the bed.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Very modern.
Mm-hmm.
What mischievous childhood experience do you remember most? You were mischievous.
I was never mischievous. I wasn't.
Only Grandpa was?
And he probably was with all the brothers he had. But not, I wasn't.
Did you ever do anything silly?
That what?
Did you ever do anything silly? Would you play jokes on each other?
Well, one time we had a toaster, and I'd put a shoe from a Monopoly set on a string and wore that as a necklace. And at the breakfast table, I said, "Oh my goodness, I've got my shoe on the toaster." And my father said, "You shouldn't have had your foot on the table." And he didn't, whether he knew it or not, he didn't even realize that it was the necklace I had on. Because we didn't have any jewelry, goodness sakes, we didn't have any money.
So you were very poor.
Very. Very.
And I think you told me before, everybody was poor though because of the Depression.
Oh yeah, we didn't look down on anybody not having anything. We just never thought about that.
Yeah, because everybody was poor.
Yeah.
Let's see. When you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I always wanted to take dance lessons and we never could afford it. I never did get to do that. So I was in high school. I excelled in typing and shorthand, and I was a legal secretary in high school.
You worked when you were in high school?
For a lawyer.
Wow. Did you like being a secretary?
Yeah. That's what I was always until I quit work when I was pregnant with Andy in '51.
Alright. Alright. You okay?
Yeah.
Is this fun for you?
Yeah, I don't mind. It's bringing back
I love to hear your memories, Grandma.
things that I hadn't thought about.
Okay. So make sure you feel good. Alright. When and where did you first attend school?
Well, I remembered that I particularly wore saddle shoes with socks.
You didn't like them?
No, everybody had them. And in elementary school, at our PE class, outdoors, we had a teacher, and we were playing baseball, and the teacher said, "Get back, because this girl throws the bat." Her daddy was a Lutheran minister in Fort Lauderdale. We all got back, threw the bat, and it hit me in the head. And I spent the day in the first aid room because my mother was working. And of course it didn't affect me.
No. Well, luckily you were so
No.
smart.
No.
But what school was that? Is that a Davy?
That was at West Side School.
West Side School.
I just went back to a reunion
Yeah.
just a few weeks ago. Barbara and Dick McCall took me
Oh,
because
nice.
he had been there some.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and now it's closed, and it's the Historical Society in that old school. You know, like Davy.
Did you like going to school?
Yeah, I never liked the first day of school. I always worried about everything the first day of school.
Hey, Grandpa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. How are you, son?
See, I've seen you all.
It's been a long time. What did you worry about?
Everybody's business with her own.
I'm doing a documentary, sir. Hush.
Well, I'm telling you the damn truth. It's always been that way.
What did he say?
Nothing worth repeating.
That's the way this sweet thing has always been.
He called you very sweet.
She had a bunch of brothers and sisters, the mother. She worried about all of them.
That you worried about your whole
She didn't have
family.
enough damn sense to worry about herself.
Did you worry about your whole family? Sure you
She
did.
worried about my family. She worried. Where do you think she got all them damn notebooks in there full of family?
And you want to put a bandage on that, Grandpa?
Not particular.
Well, I think you should take the rubber band off.
I just now looked at it, I've been putting,
Becky fusses at him
I
about
had
that.
it on the wrong spot already.
No, you didn't just do that. That was like 15 minutes ago we put on the right spot.
They got medicine on that damn thing, you can't get out of it.
Well, I think you should take that rubber band off, sir.
Huh? What?
In my humble opinion.
Look at it, look right in there, pull it up right there. See it?
Alright.
You where it is?
There, it's beautiful.
That little old rubber band with a lifesaver.
That's, he does that instead of Band-Aids.
Alright, how far did you have to travel to attend elementary school and high school? And how'd you get there?
Walked.
Both places? How far do you think it was?
Well, it was about 3 miles to elementary school. Oh, and about 8 miles to high school.
And you walked it every day? Wow. How long would that take you?
A good while.
Couple hours?
No, usually I'd get there within the hour.
Alright. And who'd you walk to school with?
Myself.
By yourself?
When I was in elementary, I picked up walking. My cousin Harold Jr., Harold Hill, that lives in Alabama now, Jeannie Hill's brother. I picked him up because he was little, and I studied with him his spelling words all the way to school. Because where he lived, it was just dead walk to the elementary school.
Alright. And what were your school lunches like?
Chili.
Yeah.
Chili was our main food.
Wow. All the time?
Just about every day we ate chili.
Oh gosh. Why?
Because I guess that's what they made.
Did you have to pay for lunch?
Oh yeah, about 25 cents.
Oh, expensive. So how did you do that since you were so poor?
Well, I did some babysitting. And just then, of course, my mother was working. We didn't spend any money. The house we were living in where my daddy died cost $25 a month. And we couldn't afford that, so we had to move to what then was called the housing project. It's still there. Recently we've heard they're going to tear it down. But now, just about, the last time I've been by there, was just about all black. But there wasn't any blacks when we lived in it.
Was it mostly widows and stuff?
They're just all kinds of poor people. And then I was married from that, out of that house
Oh,
in
wow.
48.
And it was a house, not an apartment?
No, it was a house.
Alright. Did you have any favorite subjects in elementary school?
Not that I can think of.
No. Alright. Do you have an all-time favorite teacher?
Yeah, I had two. My shorthand teacher and my typing teacher in high school.
Yeah, yeah.
Ruth Helms was one of them's name, and Irene Mims was the shorthand teacher.
Oh, that's so great you remember that, Grandma.
And then that year in it was the 11th grade, I guess it was, I had to have my appendix out.
Oh.
Yeah, didn't get to go to the prom that year. Yeah, I think I was in the 12th grade. Because I went to the prom when I was in the 11th grade with Grandpa.
With Grandpa?
Because he was a year ahead of me.
An older man.
Very much. But see, my birthday being in January, I couldn't go to school till the next year. Now I don't think it's that way anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I think now it's like September or something. Alright. You want to talk about the dance you went to with Grandpa?
The Front
Yeah.
at Carnation. Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, yes. It was at the high school gymnasium.
I'm sure you look beautiful. Did your mom make your dress?
Yes. And my hair then was long and wavy to my waist.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Did Grandpa look good?
Yes. Yes, he was good looking. He weighed up into the 200s, even in high school.
He was big.
Played football.
Oh, a big football player. All right. Did you go to all the football games?
Yes,
Was there any other kind of games you went to, or just football?
just football.
All right. Let me take a break.
Okay.
All right. I love you, Grandma. I like asking these questions. These are neat. By the time I leave, we can do the whole book. Alright, you're going to have to think about this one, though, so I'll tell you ahead of time. What has been the most rewarding aspect of your marriage?
Oh, my kids.
Yeah, oh, no, nothing to do with Grandpa.
And I worked until Andy was born.